So last night against Southampton, Manchester United were far from vintage. In fact, for a large part of the game, we were completely outplayed. Until this moment here, where the momentum of the football match completely, and I mean completely, changed. So what happened in this moment? Well, first of all, as we said in this morning's video, Southampton's intensity dropped off massively. The other big change was Joshua Zirkzee coming onto the pitch for Rasmus Højlund, and today's video is going to be all about his impact on this football match, because for me, he changed the game. He allowed Manchester United to gain territory, get up the football pitch, and eventually sustain pressure and score goals. Before we get into it and actually look at Zirkzee's performance, if you guys could please subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated, just because, well, it's a kind thing to do, right? So if you could subscribe, it would be great, and then we'll get into the video. So before we can discuss what Zirkzee was doing well, we have to discuss what was going wrong prior to that. And of course, we are going to focus on Rasmus Højlund because he was the initial striker. Now, one thing very clear, I am not trying to encourage or spread any hate for Rasmus Højlund. We just have to break down his performance. We have to assess what he was doing in the first half. And quite frankly, it wasn't very good. But he wasn't the only one. It was the whole team performing quite poorly. A lot of the reason for that, as we discussed this morning, was because Southampton were in a man-to-man pressing system. We can see it in a moment like this. Southampton really high up the pitch, forcing Manchester United under pressure. Now, when you are under pressure, you've got two options. One option is to be brave, is to be bold, audacious in the first phase, and take touches under pressure. Try and play through the press. Try and combine your way out from the back. Use the goalkeeper. Take your time in these positions. Sometimes drop a shoulder in midfield to beat your marker and progress the ball like that. That is certainly one option, but United struggled to do it last night. Therefore, we had to turn to option 2, which was playing at times in a more direct fashion. That could be from Onana up towards the front, or simply one of the centre-backs or the wing-backs clipping balls forward further up the pitch for the striker to hold onto. And that's the important part there. The striker, ultimately, in these moments, has to hold onto the ball. Unfortunately, Højlund didn't. He didn't hold on to the ball at all. He actually really struggled in these moments. He had a really bad night. And I think the main reason why he struggled so much was because that he just didn't appreciate the space. He wasn't aware of the space, and he certainly didn't take advantage of the space. You see, because Southampton are pressing so high up the pitch, there is a space in front of the Southampton back line. This is where Højlund should have been drifting. He should have been dropping into these positions, trying to get away from the Southampton centre-backs to make himself an option on the ball to then play forward. But instead what he was doing was he was playing right on the shoulder. And it meant that for Bednarek, the middle centre-back, he had a really easy night. Because as the ball would go long, Højlund's going to be focusing on the ball, then he's going to have a look at the centre-back, try and wrestle and tussle a little bit with the centre-back, as we know he does. But whilst he's doing that, Bednarek, 9 times out of 10, just kind of walked in front of him and got the ball. And the big problem here in terms of the momentum of the match is every time we do this, we go long, we lose the ball, but we also lose territory because Bednarek had enough time to get the ball down and actually pass forward. So not only have we lost a header, we've actually lost possession of the football, and we've then lost territory because as the midfielders pick it up for Southampton, we then have to retreat into a more defensive situation. So this was the problem for United in the first half. We couldn't get up the pitch because we had no out ball, because Højlund, who was supposed to be our out ball, unfortunately, just had a really bad night. And we can see it in moments like this. There's plenty of examples. But on this occasion, United are trying to play out from the back. They're trying to be a bit braver on the ball. Mazraoui moves the ball to Garnacho, and we can see the space for Rasmus Højlund there. That is his space to operate in. That is his zone of influence at this moment in time. For me, he should be dropping into that space to make himself a passing option like this. So he can drop deeper. Mazraoui can play the ball. Happy days, it's nice and comfortable. But unfortunately, Højlund delays. He delays, he stays high, he stays attached to the Southampton backline and doesn't move into that space until, realistically, it's too late. He gives himself a 50-50 challenge in the end, whereas previously it was actually an open space. He made life more difficult for himself by not showing for the ball. So that's sort of issue number 1. Now, at the same time, we do have to admit, it is difficult for our strikers. First of all, they are both very young, but also the service isn't very good. This is Lenny Yoro in a almost right-back-like position, lumping the ball forward for Højlund to try and deal with. It's very, very difficult for Højlund in these moments. However, I would argue he should be at least close to the centre-back, because the technique that Yoro was using, the ball was always going to drop somewhere in this area here. It was always going to drop in that area. Højlund should be trying to get in front of the centre-back, but he's nowhere near it. And again, in terms of comfort for the centre-back, he just steps forward, he picks the ball up, and passes the ball forward. So again, we lose territory and possession of the football. Again, in a moment like this, Yoro, again, in a right-back position. United can't play through the press, so we've got to try and go over it. We've got to go long. We need our striker. This time, Højlund is there. He is there for the battle. This is better initially, but in terms of the actual battle itself, doesn't use his body very well. Bednarek sort of just walks around him. And again, the important thing here is he's able to head the ball forward into a dangerous position. Again, we're not just losing a header, we're losing territory because Southampton are picking the ball up and actually moving on to us. That's a problem. It's a problem. Højlund simply has to do more. This one for me is the worst one though. Again, I'm not trying to encourage hate on him. We are assessing the performance. This is really bad. This is the first time he's got himself in a decent position initially. He is between a player and ball. This is his ball all day long. But he just wasn't sharp to it. And again, the Southampton centre-back very comfortably steps in front of him, picks up the ball and plays the ball forward. And again, in terms of territory, we can see that United are now in a bad position because Southampton can pick the second ball up and move forward. Now, in defence of Højlund for a moment, it's difficult for a young striker. He is a young striker, and this also just isn't his play style. At the moment, he is being asked to play in a way which doesn't suit him. Because United are struggling in deeper areas, our striker is becoming a backboard or a target man. So Højlund is struggling. Joshua Zirkzee, on the other hand, didn't struggle. So we saw right at the start of the video that the game changed when Zirkzee came onto the pitch. Part of that is because Zirkzee was phenomenal when he came on, but also, and I do need to say it again, Southampton did decrease their intensity. So all of the United players had more time, so they all performed better. It wasn't just because of the striker swap, although it did play a big part. And the big thing that Zirkzee done was provided an outlet. He was a player that you could hit and he was going to keep the ball. From deeper positions, we could go long up to him and he could protect or certainly compete. And even if he couldn't win it, he was at least forcing the ball to be knocked that way. In terms of territory, that allows United to squeeze up the pitch, whereas previously we were having to retreat. There were also moments where we could go into his feet as well, from midfield into his feet into these positions to pick up the ball. And the big thing for me was that Zirkzee recognised the space. He knew where the space was. It suited his more natural game, of course, but he was aware of where the space was. He was confident. He was comfortable moving into it. And when you get the ball in these positions, he's a good player. He's a good player, and for a defender, he is a difficult player to play against. This is his very first action, apart from blocking a free kick. The ball is moved up the line from Mazraoui, and straight away, Zirkzee is there showing for the ball. He wants the ball in this position here. He's got himself in a good body position, body between the ball and the opposition, so it's difficult to tackle you. And also, he's got that bit of agility to spin past a player, to knock the ball around the corner, and actually move past people. And as a defender, this is on your mind for the rest of the game, because the first contact you've gone into with this new striker, he's made you look a little bit silly. He's left you behind. He's moved away from you pretty effortlessly. That plays on the mind of a defender. It means in the future, the next duel, you might just sit off a little bit. But that's exactly what Zirkzee wants. And it's what he did in his cameo. He was so bright, he was so confident. This moment here, United try and clear the ball away after doing a little bit of defending. And Zirkzee is there in this deep position. Now on this occasion, he does absolutely nothing special at all, but there is one thing I want you to notice, and it's this. Look how far away the middle centre-back is from Joshua Zirkzee. We were talking about how this whole game was about Southampton being man-to-man. That's not man-to-man there, and that's because the Southampton defenders didn't want to go into the areas where Zirkzee was willing to go. So Zirkzee would drop into midfield, create an overload, and the Southampton centre-backs didn't want to follow him. Zirkzee basically done to Southampton what Southampton did to us all game long. That's what Zirkzee did really well. He just changed the flow of the game. Moments like this, Onana going more direct with the long kick. This time, it is closer. It is more of a physical battle. But Zirkzee just uses his body in a more intelligent way. Of course, he's a little bit older than Rasmus Højlund, so perhaps we would expect that. But the result is that the ball goes forward. Rather than everything dropping back into midfield, where we're on the back foot, the ball was moving forward and giving us the ability to get on the second ball, to move up the pitch, to be more aggressive and actually try and claim some territory and, you know, move forward as an attacking team, which is what you expect from United against Southampton at Old Trafford. Moments like this as well, the defender just doesn't want to go with him. Zirkzee's got himself that little bit of separation because the defender knows that Zirkzee can pick the ball up and dribble and spin him behind. He knows he's agile, he's quick on the turn, so he doesn't want to go too tight to him, so he just gives him that little bit of space. But that allows Zirkzee to pick the ball up in these positions. Look at Zirkzee here compared to Højlund previously. Zirkzee's got so much time. He's now in control of this situation. He's in control of the battle. On this occasion, he moves the ball out wide to Bruno Fernandes. Bruno then slides a nice ball down the line for Garnacho. Territory gained. We are now in the final third, rather than the second ball dropping in midfield in the middle of our half. It's a huge difference having that backboard player up front. The player that you can go up to, he's going to protect the ball and then set it off. This is what United were crying out for all game, and Zirkzee provided it. This is one of my favourite moments, though, in terms of really summing up the difference with Zirkzee on the pitch. Because Garnacho moves the ball into him, And Zirkzee just plays a pretty simple pass, but a nice pass, round the corner for Garnacho to run onto. By the time that the man-to-man defender actually gets to him, here, the ball is long gone. This is how much Zirkzee had those centre-backs on strings. They couldn't really get close to him. Zirkzee was completely dictating and dominating these situations. And like I said, for Manchester United, it allows you to move up the pitch. When you can hold the ball up in these positions and then move forward, you're gaining territory. And that's why for the last half an hour, United were more dominant. Again, Southampton dropped off. They were fatigued, I guess, in the last half an hour, probably physically and mentally. Also, you're 1-0 up. The mindset is perhaps at times to drop off a little bit. So it did play into United's hands. But Zirkzee, without a doubt, in his profile, his confidence, his swagger he brought to the pitch, did change the direction of this Manchester United game. Of course, Ahmad is going to get all the praise because he was phenomenal, right? He scores a hat-trick late on. He deserves a lot of praise. But Joshua Zirkzee also changed this game. And with what he's gone through recently with some of the fans, I had to point it out because this was a great cameo from him, a great cameo. What he needs to try and do now is do that when he starts as well. He's often been good from the bench. He needs to try and do it for 60 to 90 minutes in matches. If he can do that on a regular basis, then we will see a good striker. Of course, he's still only 23 years old. He's actually really inexperienced in terms of minutes for a player of his age. He's playing in a new league and he's not had a regular run in the team. It's going to take a bit of time. But he's shown in glimpses in certain matches, like this one here, that there is clearly a very good player there. And it might maybe be the time to give him a bit of the run in the team. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is it time for Zirkzee to start a few matches? Let me know what you think. Apart from that, we are finished for today's video. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.